So the mind-body well-being program looks to change physical well-being, emotional well-being, and positive relationships with self and community. And do you see, going through the model, how that makes sense? Right? So we have all the physical stress, effects of stress, anxiety, and trauma. So by shifting how you are with your body and giving you coping skills and tools, you can change your actual physical status, right? And what's great about these practices is they're actually good for you just anyway. If you weren't stressed or traumatized or anxious, they're just beneficial for everybody. So the side effects are things like strength, health, muscle tone, right? They're just great side effects. Decreased blood pressure for everybody. So these are great interventions that will help everyone, even if they're not stressed. Emotional well-being, so they're very emotionally regulated because you stop this kind of trigger, shutdown roller coaster. And then when you're more, remember the social engagement system? You're able to mobilize and connect with others more easily. So when you're shut down, you're actually blocking out people in your life. That could actually be supports for you in your recovery, right? So by mobilizing people and getting them to a different neurological state, back up to that place in their being where they can use their smiles, their voices, and their ears and communicate with others, you're making being okay in your own relationships easier. I don't know if you've noticed this, but after you go to like yoga or a mind-body practice, you are nicer. I know I am. My kids are like, go to yoga. You know, like, so the goal of the program is to deliver the themes of growth during an active mind-body practice. And it's designed to be over 12 weeks, and there's 10 principles. So you have a week of pre-test and post-test, and then you can spend a week on the principles. So introduction, closing week, and these are all based on pretty much, I think, every research study that there is, unless one's come out in the past week. So it's delivered through these 4 modalities: physical practice, mindful practice, inquiry, it's really thinking about what you're doing and talking about what you're doing, and then assisting and supporting, so through relationships. And every principle is explored through those 4 modalities. So there's 10 principles, and they're explored in an entire session or for an entire week. So if you are in a 12-week, you might go 2 to 3 times a week and explore the same principle. And as you do, you're going to learn about what it is and practice, and then you're going to go deeper. So the sessions 2 and 3 for that week, you're going to be in the same principle, but you're going to go deeper and apply it to your life. So the extra times you go, you get to think more and more about how would this apply to my life. So this is hard to see, and I'm going to go through all of them. But the 10 principles are here, and then you will see over there the physical practice, mindful practice, inquiry, assisting and supporting, and up there, physical well-being, emotional well-being, self-care, and relationship with self and community. So that's the model, the delivery model. That makes sense? So we kind of push these through those practices. And so today we're just going to go over 2 of them. The model here, you guys have seen this before, but essentially it reminds me a bit of both of the stress adaptation models we looked at, because you have your internal experience of self to the left of the screen, where that's your part that you can actually manage with the mind-body tools, right? So you can adjust your physiological response. You can manage your emotional response and your cognitive response to the practice. And that makes you more resilient for how you handle the external stressors. So, and then you end up with the attunement in self and relationship and community because of the tools. And so you're right there in the center creating that attunement with your practice. So part 1, and we're going to go through just 1 and 2 today, is physical basics. So when we're looking at stress management, trauma-informed mind-body practices, we start directly with the physical basics. So it starts right with the body. And the first principle is why you're trying, right? And why would you try? And I'm going to save this for a second and talk about it in like 3 slides. But that's that part. We also have a program that we're working on for kids. And so each principle then is rewritten for a child. So for an adult, I am worth the effort. And for kids, I'm always worth it. Week 3, and remember week 1 is the introduction and the assessment. Week 3, my breath is my most powerful tool. So we know that in the research, that yoga, mind, body, that above all else, the breath is the regulating practice. That is like we see the outcomes from that easiest in the research. Week 4, I work toward presence in my body. So you know trauma takes you out of your body, like disembodies you, you feel separate from it, you might be immobilized. So you work toward getting presence back in your body. And I work toward it because it's not a mandate. And for some of us, it's really hard to be present in our bodies. And it's just something we're working toward, right? And then 5 is I feel so that I can heal. To heal, we acknowledge we have to. And for kids, it's okay to feel my feelings, right? And so we'll go through the other ones as we go, but so for now we're going to go through the physical basics section, the first 2. So we are working just like Peter Levine suggested, and the research suggests to work from the inside out. So here, we're building or rebuilding a physical presence in your life, right? And I know for me and different things that I've gone through, and I've actually been through trauma in my life. And what that is doesn't matter because trauma shows up in the body, right? And the details of the story aren't as how they are landing, right, in your body. And I really left my body, like left. And I was thinking my way through everything. And there's a mind-body yoga teacher here in the United States, Sean Korn, who talks about over-understanding, that when you're not going to use your whole body, you keep trying to understand and understand and understand, and you can't understand what you have to be. Like there's a point where you have to be differently, that you can't just keep knowing everything, right? And I kept over-understanding, which would get me ruminating and thinking and studying, and nothing would change. Like some things moved a little, but the big changes couldn't happen until I was going to be in my body. So this rebuilding of physical presence, and it begins with the why, right? So why come to a program for well-being? The answer is because you're worth the effort. So Mind-Body Wellbeing Program is developed for the core understanding that every person on this earth is important and worthy of the experience of well-being, no matter what. And so you can't say, like, everyone else is worth it except me, because that's just, see, it's wrong. We have a core rule that everybody's worth the effort. So we're starting from that, right? And if you forget, we'll remind you that you're worth the effort. Trauma makes us think we're not sometimes. And then the next brings us to our bodies and our feelings. So breath really connects you. Then you work on getting present, and then you let yourself feel. So that's the physical basics. So modern day life often results in a disconnection, which is what I sort of talked about in the trauma. And so even for people who haven't been traumatized, they still have to get back in. Some people are so lost on their phones or video games or Netflix or talking that they don't remember that they have a body unless they're using substances or physically engaged with another person in some way or another, right? Or running themselves to the rag in some kind of intense physical exercise. So there's not a soft, constant presence in their body. Good. And then what I've kind of said ahead of time was honoring our feelings as teachers. So we feel them to listen to our bodies and our hearts. We let our feelings move through us as a way of healing. We let their natural coming and going happen. And the ones that we need will return, so we don't have to worry about holding or containing, or that feelings are this, it's a natural process, and the ones you need will come, and the ones you don't will go. And they'll just keep moving through you. And so this idea of us having to hold and contain and control, it doesn't work. It gets in the way of what feelings just need to do. And that this process is healing. So here's the first principle, and it's week 2. You start every training with, I can model, teach, and effectively deliver in the practice the core principle for growth, I am worth the effort. So as the teacher of this, you come in with the mantra, the idea of I am worth the effort as a model for your students. You come in with that, and that's your work. So you explain, what this is, what's it about. You can even use examples like I did of why people might not feel like they're worth the effort. And you're going to go through the session carrying that through. You might do a short example of what is worth the effort and what it isn't. So for me, for a long time, I would quit trying things because I really didn't believe I was worth the effort. So it would get hard, and I would check out. And I literally dropped out of school. I have a whole bad patch on my transcripts where you can see I literally didn't think I was worth the effort. Because who's, school for? Your future, right? And I just kept checking out. So that's what it is not. What is not worth the effort looks like that. It's like you give up on yourself, you give up on your relationships, you give up on trying. And that's what it's not. What it is when it gets hard and you know that you're worth it, and you can kind of see where you're headed, and you know that you deserve that, right? That's what it looks like. So when somebody hurts us or something really scary happens, it can give us the idea that we're not worth the effort, that we aren't worth much. If somebody is sexually abused, the perpetrator decided that their sexual drive was more important than your sexual development. That's what they were deciding in their minds. I disagree, right? I don't think anybody's sexual desire is more important than a child's sexual development. But perpetrators think that, right? Or they discount or they pretend that that's not happening. But for somebody who's been abused, that can feel like that. Like I wasn't worth someone controlling themselves for 5 minutes, right? Or a parent that won't or couldn't or whatever manage their temper and beat their child. Like the child leaves with, I'm not worth someone else getting some self-control or getting support, right? I'm someone's punching bag. And so how does that person move forward and then really try when things get hard? Some people do great, and they're like, I'm going to conquer the world anyway, right? And other people really internalize this idea that they're not worth it. So that's part of the growth. And that can even happen, interestingly enough, in car accidents. It can happen in all kinds of trauma. The brain comes up with this, that you're not worthwhile. And if you look down the symptoms of depression, right, there's worthlessness, right? We see this worthlessness across the board in a lot of clinical disorders. So starting with I'm worth the effort is really important. And really over and over and over that you're worth the effort. So considering all human beings are valuable. Everyone. No matter what's happened to you. Dan Nevins is going to deliver this. I mean, he shared this 2 days ago, that when he lost his legs, he really felt like he wasn't worthy anymore. Like he hated his body, right? And it's funny because he has his hair real short, And he asked the kids, he's like, okay, what's different about me? What do you notice is different? And one kid raised their hand and goes, you don't have any hair. He goes, no. It's like, I have like these aluminum legs, you know, or whatever they're made of, titanium legs. But it was really cute. Like the kid like didn't even notice. Like, so that was fun. And he goes, and you know, he had to go through a lot of realizing like I'm worth the effort, even though I lost my legs in the war. And when he was teaching yoga, he had us all do a forward fold and look at each of our toes, right? And just look at how beautiful each and every toe was. And just getting to realize, oh my God, like the gift I have right now of my own 2 feet, right? So this idea that you're like perfectly imperfect, just how you are, and worth the effort. Also asking people to see themselves in like a context of relationships and friendships and how people value them, and looking at themselves through the eyes of the people that do see them, right? And this can be a little tricky because some people honestly are alone, right? So you can even share in the class what other people see that's positive, right? And this idea that self-love is a practice and not always a given. Like I used to think self-love was like freckles, like you had them or you didn't. Do you know what I mean? And as I've come to read and learn and study, I've discovered that self-love it's just simply something you practice or you don't, right? That it doesn't fall from the sky. Some people had really great parents and they taught them what that was, and some people didn't. But however that practice comes to you, whether you teach yourself or a parent or a mentor or somebody teaches that to you, it all ends up the same, and that you have these practices of self-care, right? And self-nurturance and self-compassion that go with self-love. So it's just a practice, and it starts with I'm worth the effort. So this reminder that we give ourselves when we're wondering why we try. So so you begin with a short discussion on what that looks like, and then show their body language what it looks like when somebody's worth the effort, right? And it has a lot to do with, you know, like, am I going to be here or am I going to be here? And like how you show up in a room, that energy that you're bringing to how you're holding your body, how you're breathing, how your social engagement system, your mouth, right, your eyes, your ears, your voice, how you're showing up is really like a message of how worth the effort you are, right? And you're creating that. And so you could even have people show in their bodies what that looks like and what it doesn't look like. So what it is and what it is not. Both. Good. So I think we're going to go through, I'm just going to go through the one, and we'll start with the next one the next session, because that's what the timing is. And I think we should be fine. So we're going to just finish this one, and then we'll start with breath next week. Okay. So physical practice, or the yoga asana, this is an experience of doing the poses and the practice, and you're going to just lay over all of that I'm worth the effort. So that's easy to do. It takes practice. So you have to practice teaching the poses, calling the poses, knowing the sequence, and then bringing in I'm worth the effort when you really see people trying and they need the coaching, right? I love principle 1 and 2 together because I'm worth the effort and your breath can calm you down. So I like to weave them in together. But in the learning, we're doing it separately so you can really land each one. So it can be helpful to create a challenge. And this could be, and use this I'm worth the effort as a mind tool to help you when things get tough, right? Like I've even used it when I was arguing with my teenage daughter, which I have lots of opportunities to do. I have lots of opportunities for growth on a regular basis. And when I say I'm worth the effort, I really think we are worth the effort, right? And it really calms me down. So you're really thinking of the terrible things that can happen in a dysfunctional relationship that hurt each other. And you think like, I'm worth the effort, she's worth the effort, we're worth the effort. When I feel like not giving the effort, right? To try and stay calm and steady and make it a meaningful and growing exchange as opposed to hurtful, rejecting. Because what do? You hurt and then you leave each other. So what is that back to? Avoidance, run, fight, flight. Do you see how it's all, or connect and grow? Connect and grow in my heart, connect and grow here, connect and grow with you, or bail out, be aggressive, and take off. Because that's the fear response. It's nothing more, right? So you want to get people really working, and it doesn't have to be like push-ups, right? It can be holding a tree pose. And you're working on it and you fall out. You work on it, you fall out. Our crow pose, I'm just thinking because Kelly's here, her crow pose, her crow pose journey. Whatever it is, something that's really challenging, and you're going to keep working on it and bring back to I'm worth the effort. So it's even fun to try, like there's an 8-angle pose. Poses that many people have never tried before are fun to bring into the class to get them to try. So while this training is happening, the first integration series of the whole sequence is taught during that first session, because that's the child's pose and the upward facing V and the forward fold and standing up in mountain pose and Samastiti here, like a grounded mountain pose. That whole first part is taught in the very first week, so that people have tools for child's pose, take child's pose whenever you want, and all those tools for when you need a break. And then the second week starts right with the Awakening series. So the sun sequences, A and B, that you guys know. And it's exactly like it is on the sequence that you're learning, right here. And so when people are taking this training, they will be learning this first part, the worth, with that sun sequence part, which is good because those can get kind of challenging. And then I would add in something after these sun sequences that's kind of a challenge or hard to do to really land it. And then if we were taking this training right now, you would first practice calling the poses of that part. Then you would practice giving one cue for each of the poses like we've been doing in class. And then you would add the growth principle the third time through, so that you would really be able to land it. And you'd take turns teaching each other. Does that make sense? So that's how it'll be done in the training. And then the meditation, and we've done this meditation in class. So this meditation's the metta meditation that first brings the loving kindness to yourself. And this is literally called the loving kindness meditation. So you would build on, I am worth the effort through a whole practice, and then you would add in the meditation of, may I be happy, may I be healthy, may I be safe, may I be peaceful and at ease. And you could even go through that whole meditation where you extend it out to the connection and the people in your support system, right? And then synchronizing your breathing with your meditation. And so if you were in the training, we'd actually take everyone through that meditation, and you could practice it, teach it to each other, and have a sense of what it feels like in your body. And then part of the mindfulness section is informal. So that's like what practices that we do with the Mindful Therapist class, but really bringing this informal loving kindness throughout your week. So you notice times in the day when you need more loving kindness than other times. Like for me, it's like pulling up to work at UB. You're in the car, and you've got this, Catherine. You are worth the effort in getting myself from the car to my office. I'm usually, once I get walking, there's a little part where I kind of want to sit in my car and just see who's on Facebook on my phone and just like everything. That's so great. That's so great. So what are the ways you're showing yourself loving kindness and really landing that, and maybe even setting goals in your journal for what you'd like to do during the week? And then inquiry. So if we were in the training, we would actually sit down and have small group sessions after the practice, after the meditation, about what it feels like and looks like for people when they don't believe they're worth the effort. And then if people wanted to share, like later in the week, if we were taking them through like the 3-session or 2-session process, we would have them maybe even share like things that made them think they weren't worth the effort. Or some people might go, you know what, I've been really lucky and I've never thought that. And then I'll be like, that is lucky and that is good. And then they can be good teachers for what it looks like to know you're worth the effort. Good. And then the last part is assisting and supporting. And this happens the whole way through. And so, was anybody here at the assistant support workshop? Nobody was? We did that through Yogis in Service. And this can be a whole separate workshop. And in this program, we're weaving it in. So assisting means that I'm the teacher and I go to you to assist you. And because it's trauma-informed, we're going to be actually more using our words than our hands. And we're going to be asking permission to use hands and being very open and communicative about like how I'm going to assist and what's okay with everybody. Having a lot of conversations about that, right? What feels safe, what doesn't feel safe, what's okay in my culture, what's not okay in my culture, right? So our assisting can be verbal, where we're talking to people like, press down all four corners of your foot in the front. Good. Press down your heel, seal down, press down the back, pinky side of your back foot, right? I want to see your breath. Show me your breathing. So you're really, I want to see through the opening of your chest, your shoulders moving down your back, that you're worth the effort, right? I want to see that in this pose. So you're really layering on with words your assist. You're bringing that to them. Support is when they're like, I need help. So, and we want people to work on accepting and engaging and assisting and taking help. So the social engagement system. And we want people to ask for help if they need it. Social engagement system. So that can be with voice, right? That can be body language. You can, in your class, design a way for people to ask for help. Like in Yogis in Service, we have a little chip that you can put up or down, and the chip will say, like, I need support. Or you put it down like, I need a break from you. Right? You can do that. You can also say, I don't want help right now. Right? And that's using your voice and your body to get space. So throughout all of the sessions, this idea of how am I assisting, how am I taking help, and how am I asking for help gets discussed and woven in through the whole thing. So here we're going to offer students that perhaps connecting can help elevate your way of being, and offering loving kindness to yourself and your students, right? And the students offering loving kindness to you and the fellow students as a way of practicing, right? So this is working on the relationships. Almost there. So then at the end, and you have this in your manual, so all this is in your manual. To close the session for the day, there's looking at I'm worth the effort and share one take home. So sitting in a circle, sharing the take home, everybody acknowledging everyone else in their work. And then some, just the special notes for teachers are related to what are tips for this particular principle with trauma. So consider individuals who may have experienced trauma often feel as if their body has become the enemy. Like Dan talked about that. Like it was like a fight with his body. I felt like I was in a constant fight with my body. And often experiencing negative thoughts about their bodies and about themselves. So that's a very common thing. So we don't want to make that wrong. That's why we say, like, I work toward presence. I work toward choice, because we acknowledge that sometimes it feels like you can't be present in your body. So we're going to acknowledge that that's the way people are feeling, and we're going to work toward new ways of being. But it's perfectly okay where you are. And then for full body-mind connection, to believe that the work and themselves is worth the effort. So that it really has to be like, if I want to be connected, I have to believe that that is me. I'm worth the effort of making that connection. And for some people, getting aware and getting connected it's going to be hard. They're going to feel things they haven't felt, right? And you're going to give them tools. The very next one is breath, which is the most powerful tool. So they're going to have tools, but to know that they're worth the effort to do that. That's good. And so I think we'll stop there. So this would be the next. We'll start with this one for breath next week. And I think without the background, we'll be able to get through it in two, because each of the sessions are structured just like I said. So good. So thank you.